John Burgoyne, a British general known for his role in the American Revolution, is often remembered for his failed campaign in the Saratoga Campaign of 1777. His military career, while marked by early successes, ultimately led to a disastrous defeat that became a turning point in the war. Despite his significant role in the conflict, Burgoyne's impact on the American Revolution is complicated, as his failures contributed directly to the eventual success of the American cause. His story offers insight into British strategy, military missteps, and the broader implications of leadership in wartime. Early life and career. Born in 1722 in England, John Burgoyne came from a family with a strong military background. His early years were marked by education in the arts and a passion for theatre, but he eventually entered the British Army in 1740. He served in various campaigns across Europe, and his military abilities earned him promotions over the years. By the time the American Revolution broke out in the late 18th century, Burgoyne was a seasoned officer with experience in both battlefield tactics and military leadership. Burgoyne also gained some fame outside of his military career, known for his love of the theater and his involvement in the production of plays. His personality, charisma, and flair for drama would shape how he approached the campaign in America and how he would be remembered in history. Burgoyne's role in the American Revolution. When the American Revolution began, Burgoyne was in London, but his experience and enthusiasm for military campaigns quickly led him to be involved in British plans to quell the rebellion in the American colonies. In 1777, the British were searching for a way to divide the rebellious colonies and destroy the American Continental Army. The strategy, known as the Divide and Conquer Plan, relied on three British armies advancing on different fronts to meet in the middle, thereby isolating New England from the rest of the colonies. Burgoyne was chosen to lead one of these armies, with the task of advancing south from Canada, through the Hudson River Valley, and meeting up with British forces coming from the west. The idea was to cut off New England from the rest of the colonies, disrupt American supply lines, and force the Continental Army to retreat or surrender. This would hopefully deal a devastating blow to the American resistance and force them into negotiations or submission. The Saratoga Campaign, a fateful decision. In the summer of 1777, Burgoyne set out with his army, which included British regulars, German mercenaries, Hessians, and Native American allies. His plan was to march from Canada, through the wilderness of New York, and take control of key positions along the Hudson River. He hoped to link up with General William Howe's forces from the south, who were supposed to advance up the river, and together they would destroy the Continental Army. However, from the outset things went wrong for Burgoyne. His army, while well-equipped and relatively well-trained, was burdened with logistical challenges. The terrain was difficult, and the Americans, under the command of General Horatio Gates and Benedict Arnold, mounted a determined resistance. The British forces, accustomed to fighting in European-style formations, were ill-prepared for the guerrilla tactics employed by the Continental Army and the difficult conditions of the American wilderness. Burgoyne's advance was also hindered by poor communication and the failure of other British commanders to follow through on the larger coordinated strategy. General Howe, instead of advancing up the Hudson to meet Burgoyne, chose to launch a campaign to capture Philadelphia, leaving Burgoyne isolated and unsupported. By mid-September, Burgoyne's army was stuck in Saratoga, New York, surrounded by American forces. The siege that followed was intense, and despite Burgoyne's attempts to break through, the Americans held firm. After several weeks of heavy fighting and with supplies running low, Burgoyne was forced to surrender to General Gates on October 17, 1777. The consequences of Saratoga, a turning point in the Revolution. Burgoyne's defeat at Saratoga was a devastating blow to British hopes of ending the rebellion quickly. The surrender of over 5,000 British and Hessian troops was a monumental victory for the Americans, and it had significant international ramifications. The American victory at Saratoga is often considered the turning point in the Revolutionary War, as it convinced France to formally ally with the United States. French support, both in terms of military aid and the eventual deployment of troops, was crucial to the success of the American cause. For Burgoyne, the defeat was humiliating. He returned to England in disgrace, facing both public and political scorn for the failure of his campaign. His reputation suffered, and he was never again entrusted with such a significant command. However, Burgoyne's actions during the Saratoga campaign, particularly his leadership and decision-making, would have lasting consequences on the course of the Revolution. The legacy of John Burgoyne. Despite his failure at Saratoga, John Burgoyne's legacy is more complex than just that one campaign. While his defeat was a major setback for the British, it played an important role in galvanizing the American cause. His leadership in the campaign showcased the challenges the British faced in trying to control a vast and hostile territory. The difficulties that Burgoyne encountered, including poor communication, a lack of resources, and misjudgments about American strength and resolve, highlighted the limitations of British strategy. Burgoyne's failure at Saratoga also illustrated the importance of coordination between British commanders. The lack of cooperation between Burgoyne, General Howe, and other British officers was one of the critical factors in the collapse of the British plan. This dysfunction in British leadership would be a recurring theme throughout the war and would eventually contribute to the American victory. While Burgoyne's military career may have ended in failure, it also set the stage for greater American victories. His defeat exposed British vulnerabilities and strengthened the resolve of the Continental Army. His loss at Saratoga, and the ensuing alliance with France, was instrumental in the eventual defeat of the British and the independence of the United States. Conclusion: a British general's role in the American Revolution. John Burgoyne's role in the American Revolution, particularly his leadership during the Saratoga campaign, cannot be overstated. While his failure marked a turning point in the war, it was a failure that helped the American cause achieve its ultimate goal: independence. Burgoyne's career serves as a reminder of the complexities of warfare, the importance of leadership, and the unpredictable nature of history. Though he did not succeed in his mission, Burgoyne's actions contributed to the eventual victory of the American colonies, and his story remains a testament to the delicate balance of strategy, decision-making, and luck in the midst of war.